And welcome back, adventurers, to Let's Play Sentinels of the Multiverse. It has been quite a while since we last fought the matriarch in the previous video, in which Tachyon and her allies managed to defeat her erstwhile cousin in the city of Megalopolis. Now we're moving on to the third villain of the Rook City expansion. The shadowy vermin known as Plague Rat. Plague Rat is a difficulty 2 villain, is not as dangerous as the chairman or the matriarch, but he isn't a pushover, as we will ultimately see, because there he is in the sewers of Rook City, and he is holding a human skull in his hand. And if we flip his character card, he is even worse. But he is the villain that we will be facing in this episode of Sentinels of the Multiverse. And we are going to be fighting him in the other location in Rook City, the Pike Industrial Complex. Joy. Keep out. Trespassers will be prosecuted. Yeah, tell that to Plague Rat. Interesting thing concerning the backstory of Plague Rat. Apparently, Plague Rat was actually a drug dealer who was trying to build his own crime syndicate in the heart of Rook City before the organization and the chairman started clamping down on any rival syndicates. As a result, the drug dealer was forced into the toxic sewers of Rook City, and due to the chemicals that can be found in the Pike Industrial Complex, Plague Rat was the result. He mutated and with the various rats in the sewers, and as a result he became the creature known as Plague Rat. And he feeds off the chemicals from the industrial complex. Gonna need a very strong crew for this one, so gonna bring along Ra, Bunker, let's see now. Definitely want to bring along Mr. Fixer. He'll be looking forward to dealing out some damage after the thrashing that we received at the hands of the chairman. Want to bring along the Visionary for some support, and do I want to take Unity or no? We'll take Tempest. So let's head into the Pike Industrial Complex and root out Plague Rat. And there is the Pike Industrial Complex music, and Plague Rat is snarling and cursing at us. I do love this motif. It kind of fits in with the atmosphere of the smog and the industry. But I was also going to say that this opening motif kind of fits in with the martial arts theme of Mr. Fixer, because he also comes from Rook City. And it is rumored that the Pike Industrial Complex is actually the headquarters of the chairman, or one of the buildings of the complex is where the chairman supposedly gives his orders to the members of his organization. But that remains to be seen. And speaking of wonderful music from Sentinels of the Multiverse, I had a look at my Twitter feed just the other day, and I discovered that surprisingly John Mark Giffen himself is actually following me on Twitter, so a very hearty shout out to you, good sir, and I look forward to hearing more Sentinels music from Handle Labor Games. But enough shoutouts. It's time to face off against Plague Rat. Now Plague Rat starts off on his Plague Bearer side of his character card, and he gets to put Plague Locust into play, which is his nest that he has constructed. At the start of his turn, if all active heroes are infected, Plague Rat flips. Whenever a card named Infection is destroyed, Plague Rat deals each hero target 5 toxic damage, and at the end of his turn, he deals every hero 1 irreducible melee damage. So Plague Rat is, he has cards called Infection, which is really not good, because they chain with a lot of his other cards, which can prove to be somewhat of a problem for us. Now before we actually fight him, I'll just check all our hands. Ra has Fire Blast, Flame Spike, and 2 Summon Staves. Bunker has Power Source, decommissioned hardware, a maintenance unit, and an Omni Cannon. Fixer has dual crowbars, meditation, overdride, and a salvage yard. Nice. And Visionary has cerebral hemorrhage, mind spike, twisty ether, and rest the mind. And Tempest has 2 gene-bound shackles, localized hurricane, and otherworldly presence. And there is Plague Locust, which increases damage dealt by Plague Rat and infected heroes by 1. So he gets damage increase, and he hits everyone but the weakest hero for 2 melee and 2 toxic damage, thanks to Vicious Onslaught. Don't think we want Visionary to take damage at the moment, so everyone else is going to take 3 melee and toxic damage because of his nest, that is Plague Locust. So right off the bat we are getting hit for 6 damage right at the beginning of the game. Although, having said that, it could actually be a lot worse, and indeed it will be a lot worse when he starts infecting us with his toxic plague and causing all sorts of problems and shenanigans. But interestingly enough, the Plague Locust is a target. It has 13 health, so we can actually get rid of it by attacking it. And we get dealt 2 melee. So we just got dealt 8 damage. That's 8 damage right off the bat. Yeah, even though he's a difficulty 2 villain, Plague Rat does not mess around. And of course Plague Locust heals Plague Rat if he is damaged. Of course this only happens, I believe, at the end of his turn. Yeah, that's right. He regains health equal to the number of infected heroes, only at the end of his turn. You see these symbols down here. There is actually a key which explains these symbols, like the heart, for example, indicates that this healed something. The green, I believe the green exclamation mark is the start of the turn, while the red exclamation mark is the end of the turn, and other symbols do other things. First we want to get Ra's staff so that he can actually do some damage. And also regain 3 health. Definitely useful for when we play Fire Blast next turn. Gonna go for the Plague Locust first, so that I can so that he doesn't have that damage increase. And Ra has 2 Wrathful Gazers, which aren't going to be useful to us at the moment, so we won't be using them. Let's see. We want to use Auxiliary Power Source so we can get more cards, so we can power up Omni Cannon. So we'll do that. We'll use the power source to get some good cards like external combustion, upgrade mode, and grenade launcher. And at the end of his turn, Bunker draws a flat cannon. Now it's Fixer's turn. Now Fixer is going to use his dual crowbars, so he can hit both Plague Rat and Plague Locust. So we're going to deal 2 damage to Plague Rat and another 2 damage to, or 3 damage to Plague Locust. And we get another meditation. So far so good. Should probably play one of those to get a style in play, just in case. But for now, Visionary is going to lash out with a Cerebral Hemorrhage, which will hit both Plague Locust and Plague Rat for 2 psychic damage. And we don't want to hit any of our own teammates because that would be silly. Now who do I want to use Enlighten on? Probably use it on Tempest, because it's his turn next. He gets an Elemental Subwave Inducer, and he also gets Electrical Storm. But he has to give up a card, so he can give up one of his Gene-Bound Shackles. And Visionary gets Prophetic Vision, which is definitely going to be very helpful in dealing with the industrial complex, because there are a lot of chemicals as well as other things. See those creatures lurking in the shadows? They're friends of Plague Rat. Very good friends. The question is, do I want to use the localized hurricane? Well, it's not really a question. I am going to use localized hurricane to deal damage and draw 2 cards. Unfortunately, Tempest will actually take extra damage thanks to localized hurricane, but that's something that I can deal with. I really want the card draw at the moment. And speaking of card draws, Ball Lightning, which is a very good card, and another Electrical Storm. And a Flash Flood for getting rid of pesky environment cards. And I do love this motif. There's the chemicals and this toxic. Speaking of toxic, experimental mutagen. There aren't any rats in the trash, so that doesn't happen. And there is Noxious Bite, which hits the lowest hero for 5 toxic melee damage, which is both 7. Oh, that is not good. And Noxious Bite plays Infection. Yeah. This isn't fun. When this card is played, if everyone is infected, Plague Rat gets to play the top card of his deck. Then move this card to the trash. But only if everyone's infected. Play Infection next to a non-infected hero, and that hero becomes infected. At the start of that hero's turn, they deal themselves 1 irreducible toxic damage. Now you may be thinking, 1 irreducible toxic damage isn't that bad, right? Well again, Infection on its own is not a problem. The key phrase there is on its own, and sorry Mr. Fixer, but you are about to be infected. And speaking of infected, did any of you notice the quotation at the bottom of Noxious Bite? It's another pop culture reference, courtesy of Sentinel Comics. 3 guesses as to what that quote is actually referencing. and everyone gets hit for 2. Irreducible damage once again, and Tempest is looking very worse for wear. He's down to 9. Oh, he's down to 8 health. That is not good. And because Fixer is infected, Plague Rat heals 1 damage. Could actually use Wrathful Gaze to get rid of Plague Locust, but we're not going to do that. We're actually going to hit Plague Rat for 6 damage because we need to start attacking him directly. Otherwise, things are just going to go horribly wrong. But that doesn't mean we're not going to get rid of Plague Locust, because we need to burn his nest. And make sure he doesn't have extra damage increase. And we get an excavation variable, which isn't really going to help us at the moment. I was going to have a closer look at experimental mutagen. Yeah, when it enters play, all rat cards from the environment trash are put into play. All damage dealt by rats are increased by 1, and all damage dealt to rats are reduced by 1. And at the start of the environment turn, if there are 2 or more rats in the trash, this card is gone. Now, I want to charge up Omni Cannon, so I want to do as much damage as possible. I also need to draw some cards. Turret mode. Good ammo fodder, and another external combustion for when I need to use it. Unfortunately, Fixer is infected and he has dual crowbars, which means he deals damage to himself, but he gets to deal damage to Plague Rat, which is a boon, I suppose. Now, actually, before I throw a style out, I actually want to deal as much damage as I can, so I'm going to use Overdrive first, and then I'm going to hit Plague Rat twice. Unfortunately, I won't be able to deal another target damage because Plague Rat is currently the only target that I want to be attacking at the moment. Oh look, another Overdrive. This is actually turning out rather well, although I really need to watch Tempest's health. Could use Mind Spike, but I want to use a Prophetic Vision in order to see what the future holds in terms of the environment. First we have Super Cooled Trisolvent Vat. Whenever a player plays a hero card, they get dealt 1 cold damage. At the end of the environment turn, each target gets dealt 1 cold, 1 toxic, and 1 energy damage. Ow. But then we have Irradiated Cyclohexane Vat, which is convert all damage to toxic and increase all damage by 1, which we don't want because there is also this. Chemical Explosion. Destroy all VAT cards. Deal each target X toxic damage, where X is the number of VATs that were destroyed, plus 3. Yeah. We want to put... Oh... This isn't actually a good choice. We either have the Cyclohexane Vat or the Trisolvent Vat. Might as well play the irradiated vat and put chemical explosion on the very bottom of the environment deck. No. Yeah, fighting in a toxic industrial complex is never a good choice. We got Grievous Hailstorm and Aquatic Correspondence for Tempest. And we'll get rid of one of his electrical storms. And a Precognition, which would be very helpful when scouting out any potential dangers that Plague Rat has lurking in the shadows. Could use otherworldly resistance to protect myself, but I also want to deal as much damage as I can. So, what do I? Actually, I'm going to throw out Gene-Bound Shackles, which will deal extra damage to Plague Rat, because he is the he is currently the strongest villain target at the moment, and right now that is a very good thing. We'll hit Plague Rat for 5 and draw Shielding Winds and another Shielding Winds. Now, if only I had one of those earlier, and a Lightning Slash. That will definitely come in handy. But I really want to be able to play that Shielding Winds. And there's the Irradiated Vat, which means all damage is toxic, and everyone gets damage increase of 1. Which unfortunately includes Plague Rat. Oh, Tooth and Claw. Hits the lowest hero for 3 toxic damage, which sadly is Tempest. Oh, that is brutal. And hits the highest for 5 melee damage, which means he deals 6 toxic damage because it's toxic. And another hero is becoming infected as a result. Unfortunately, the hero in this case is going to be Bunker. This is starting to look quite... Oh no. Oh. Tempest is, Tempest is looking very worse for wear here. I don't think he's going to survive the next round. Yeah. This could have been a lot better. Unfortunately it's not. Oh no, he didn't survive this round. Oh well. One hero has fallen. Which is not good. I'll play another Summon Staff to get an extra Staff of Ra, because I get to draw a card and I get to play a card. I throw out Living Conflagration so I can deal a bit of damage to Plague Rat. Unfortunately, I'm not dealing fire damage, and I probably could have gotten rid of I just realized that I probably could have gotten rid of the environment cards with oh no, because I couldn't have, because that was played after Tempest's turn. Never mind me, I'm just rambling here. Anyway, Ra is going to deal the smackdown on Plague Rat, dealing 4 toxic damage. But that Vat is probably going to be our Achilles heel of sorts. And we definitely want to move 3 cards under Omni Cannon, which are turret mode, upgrade mode, and decommissioned hardware. And Bunker deals himself damage. And he's going to be dealing himself some more damage with the power of external combustion, which instead is going to deal toxic damage to him instead. That means that we can deal some extra damage to Plague Rat. Do we want to use the 3 cards? So we could deal 6 damage to Plague Rat at the moment, but I actually want to save Omni Cannon just for the moment, because I want to put some more ammo under Omni Cannon so I can deal some more damage. And Fixer deals some damage to himself because he's infected, but thanks to dual crowbars he retaliates against Plague Rat, which is very helpful. And gonna throw out an overdrive so that strike can be used twice this turn. And Fixer is going to beat down on Plague Rat with his toxic crowbars now. Yeah, this battle could go either way depending on how the environment or Plague Rat go at this point. Don't hit our own teammates because that would be very counterproductive. And Fixer drew Grease Gun, which may come in handy if we decide to use it. Could deal some damage, but actually I'm going to throw out the precognition. Because Plague Rat could definitely have something in store. And he does. He has some very nasty things in store. He has Ravage, which hits each hero other than the highest hero 2 toxic damage. And he gets to put as many copies of Infection as heroes damage this way. So Ravage basically, yeah, Ravage gets to hit everyone but the strongest hero and they all get infected. Oh, that is, yeah. See what I mean about chaining cards. There's another Noxious Bite. And there's another Tooth and Claw. And if we flip to the other side of Plague Rat's cards, we can actually see the morning edition of the Rook Rag, which is the Rook City tabloid. And there is an article on Plague Rat, what lurks in the sewers of Rook City, and this rare photo, probably one of the few photos of Plague Rat's existence captured in the tabloids. Oh. Either way, we're going to take loads of damage and somebody's going to get infected. So I'm gonna put Noxious Bite on the top, and I'm going to put Ravage on the very bottom. Yeah, Plague Rat is a nasty piece of work. And Ra is going to be having the power of enlightenment this time. Scorched Earth and Living Conflagration. Scorched Earth, environment cards in play. That's very useful. Get rid of one of the Wrathful Gazers. And Visionary draws Foresight, and because Tempest is down, I can't play the Shielding Winds, unfortunately. Hero may use a power. Select the damage type. Until the start of your next turn, heroes are immune to damage of that type. We're going to make everyone immune to toxic damage, which is really good now, because that has saved me at this point from taking any real damage from Plague Rat and the chemicals of the Industrial Complex. Unfortunately, there's another experimental mutagen that's out. Fortunately, it doesn't do anything because we haven't fought any rats at the moment. But there's Noxious Bite, which is going to deal absolutely no damage whatsoever, except, unfortunately, another infection is going to be afflicting one of our heroes. So there's another infection, which is now, unfortunately, going to be targeting the Visionary. And everyone gets hit for melee damage. Oh, for toxic damage, and we're immune because of Tempest's incapacitated power, which is a lifesaver at this point of the battle. Yeah. It's actually quite interesting because Plague Rat is difficulty 2, but he can actually be a really challenging villain. Whereas the likes of the Matriarch, who is a difficulty 4 villain, if you play her on normal difficulty, she's actually not that bad. It's only really her cohorts, the 2 bird cohorts, Hugin and Moonin, which are really what make her so dangerous. But anyway, we're going to throw out a Scorched Earth, deal some very potent toxic damage against Plague Rat, and dealing some even more damage with Toxic Pyre, because all our damage is now toxic thanks to that. We've got another Living Conflagration, which we could play both of those because they aren't limited, and we definitely want to throw another turret mode, one of the grenade launchers, and I might throw the other grenade launcher under there. And Bunker is going to throw out another external combustion, which he is immune to. Plague Rat is not immune to toxic damage at the moment, although this can change because Plague Rat does have ways of being immune to toxic damage, which would lock us out at the moment. But I believe now is the time to fire the Omni Cannon and deal some serious damage. 13 damage right off the bat. So we just took out half of his health and got a Gatling gun for our trouble. Conserving ammo for Omni Cannon is always a good thing. And I'm going to throw out a salvage yard so we can play Overdrive, use Strike twice, and deal some more toxic damage. Pretty straightforward fight, really, with Plague Rat. He's not a overly difficult villain, but he can be quite difficult when push comes to shove. And you can't see this, but I've actually unlocked Compound Ether Fist, which is one of the Steam achievements. I believe that when you deal multiple 100 damage over many rounds of various damage types, and it relates to the Visionary's card Twisty Ether, which changes damage types. And Stroke is being removed, and Infection does nothing. But yeah, there are some achievements like Compound Ether Fist, which again relates to Twisty Ether, which if you deal damage of basically every type over the course of battle, then you get that achievement. And there's Mind Spike, which is going to hit 4, not quite enough to defeat him, unfortunately. So we want Ra to draw some cards now. He gets a barrier, flame barrier, and flame spike, and he can get rid of his wrathful gaze, because we're gonna basically beat Plague Rat on our next round anyway, because he only has 2 health. One hero may use a power. We could actually finish him off this round. We'll use Pyre to finish off Plague Rat for toxic damage. So yeah, fairly tough fight, but once again we have prevailed, adventurers. Plague Rat has been muzzled and taken away, and we, well, survived. Now we just have to recover from Plague Rat's infection, as if that wasn't bad enough. But we are once again victorious, and in the next video I will be tackling the final villain of the Rook City expansion, the notorious villain known simply as Spite. As always, I am the Dungeon Master, and I will see you all in the next episode of Let's Play Sentinels of the Multiverse. And as always, until next we meet.